CM Punk finally did it. He took down Drew McIntyre. He finally got his way with him. That's not right. You can't say that. He got in Hell in a Cell and they're just beating each other off left and right. That is worse. I am so sorry. Bad Blood is behind us. CM Punk came out the victor. This was possibly my match of the year, one of. I thought this was excellent. I rewatched it actually, and I loved the storytelling in this entire match. I love the pacing of it, the flow for 30 minutes. It didn't feel like 30 minutes. There was no real moments where it felt like it was a downer or I was just kind of waiting for them to do the next spot. It was a bloody mess. And then we saw on Monday Night Raw, Punk came out, Drew McIntyre did not. CM Punk came out all beaten, battered, and injured and all taped up and telling the WWE universe that he's gonna go away for a while and he doesn't know when or if he's gonna come back. Well, he is gonna come back. We don't know when exactly, but we're gonna talk about when CM Punk could return and what does it look like for this man, the cult of personality himself, like Mussolini. So CM Punk is going to be off TV, I predict, until maybe the Royal Rumble. But before the Royal Rumble, I think CM Punk will show up on the debut episode of Monday Night Raw on Netflix. That is going to be on January 6th. That episode of Raw they are going to load that thing as hard as they can, just funneling every single superstar, probably from both brands, maybe some legends. You never know, Bill Goldberg might show up there too. Maybe we'll get a mega title for Netflix. You never know, like they did for Saudi Arabia. Anyways, I think that Punk will come back. He will take time off now, and he will not return until the debut episode of Raw on Netflix to announce that he is going to enter the Royal Rumble. Could Drew McIntyre show up before that? Possibly. He lost. You'd think that he'd be off just as long, if not longer. Maybe Drew would show up during the Royal Rumble as his return. They both need some time off in separation. They need some time apart. But we've got Crown Jewel, then we've got Survivor Series. Saturday night's main event is in December, and then it's the Netflix, and then it's the Royal Rumble. Now we don't know how long Raw on Netflix is going to be each week. If they are going to go to more of a stream 3-hour product once again, because the 2 hours, people are not very crazy about that 2-hour format, I gotta tell you. So if we're gonna get more time, you might get a nice 10-minute promo from CM Punk on his return on Raw, or you gotta quick the pace here a little bit, and then you have Punk come out and he just says he's coming in for the Royal Rumble. So I think that one of the options you could have is Punk then showing up for his next match being the Royal Rumble itself. But what's the plan here? What could they do? WWE has some options. Punk, I think, is gonna go after that World Heavyweight Championship. Now, Punk versus Gunther, I really do like that idea. And this is where CM Punk for WrestleMania, there's a lot that they could do. So you could just straight up have Punk win the Royal Rumble, challenge Gunther for the world title, off we go, main event, WrestleMania Night 1, Gunther versus CM Punk, first time ever. Be an excellent match, promos would be excellent, and then maybe Punk is gonna get that world title and the WrestleMania main event he's always wanted. So that is a very clean option, something that is just very, like, just almost pedestrian. Like, you just, okay, it's right there in front of you. But you could do the other option, which they did tease on Raw when Punk says he's all injured and he's going home to snuggle his doggy, that he came across in contact with Seth Rollins once again. Now, Seth has had a couple interactions here on Raw. He had a not so friendly interaction with Jey Uso. They looked at each other all weird and didn't like that because of WrestleMania last year with the Cody Avengers and all of them. So then you got Punk and Seth staring each other down. Seth is not done with CM Punk, nor have they even had a match. They had to pause everything from last year. That was going to be the big WrestleMania plan until CM Punk got injured. And we kind of got like a reverse situation happening, because I think we would have gotten Drew versus Punk at some point. If Punk didn't get injured, clearly the plan was going to be Seth versus Punk. And then maybe the later half of the year after WrestleMania, it would be Drew versus Punk. I think now they could end up flipping it around and we end up getting Seth versus Punk. But what do you do? How do you get there? Is it a multi-man match at WrestleMania for the title? I do feel like the title needs to be involved. Otherwise, I don't know who Gunther is going up against. Multi-man matches at WrestleMania, they're not always great, but you do have a lot of star power in there. And that's what I love about the world title scene on Raw. There's a lot of people that could be contenders that could legitimately get that belt. Drew, Punk, Seth, Gunther has it. Damian Priest has had, he could get it again. Jey Uso is IC champion, but he could roll up. Braun Breaker could go for the world title. There are so many options on Raw that I love for going for the world title. At the Royal Rumble though, if you do have the moment between Seth and Punk, you could do it where Seth eliminates Punk and tosses him out, almost maybe turning Seth a little bit more heel, to then set up potentially a match between Punk and Seth at WrestleMania one-on-one, no title involved. Just doing that match, they'll have multiple months to build to it, from Rumble all the way to WrestleMania. You can easily build that match every single week with the easy motivation of just maybe Seth eliminated Punk, Punk is angry, and that fuels the fire, and they can go off to Mania and they can go off their history and everything they built the year prior. But if they do want the world title involved, that's where it gets interesting. And let's say they want it to be Seth Punk one-on-one for the world title. Then I'm gonna assume that by like the Royal Rumble, somehow, some way, Seth needs to become #1 contender at the Rumble or even Elimination Chamber and win the world title off of Gunther. Now, if they do it where Punk wins the Royal Rumble and he's gonna face world champion in the main event, you could have Seth in an Elimination Chamber match with Gunther, and Seth ends up winning the world title. Gunther doesn't get pinned, thus moving Gunther on to Goldberg at WrestleMania. I know that's not great, but Seth could get that world title so that they can have that story move forward into WrestleMania between the two of them. Another option I can see for Punk going into Mania is going to be triple threat, where they finally do all three guys together and they do Punk, Drew, and Seth. You could put the title in there, get it off Gunther once again, put it on Drew McIntyre, for example, and have Drew going in as champion to defend his belt, fighting Seth, fighting Punk. It protects Punk a lot in that match because we know that he can't really go physically the way he used to. So a triple threat can protect a lot of these guys, and you can give CM Punk the win there at WrestleMania by pinning Drew McIntyre once again. That can also then, if you get Drew pinned at Mania for the title, then you have Punk and Seth being able to tell the story to, say, SummerSlam the next year, where you can have Seth talking about how he was never pinned at Mania. You have Punk maybe hold the title until SummerSlam, but that does seem like a long time if he's not going to be able to perform every single PLE. But you could stretch out that story until SummerSlam and get the one-on-one match between Seth and Punk finally. Because Drew and Punk, yes, I think that goes on hold, and they gotta pivot into something new. I'm very curious as to how they will kind of separate these guys and move on from their story, because it's one of those feuds that they can just revisit at any point. And because of the success that I see with Hell in a Cell, I want them to have a break, but I can see them going back to it, and maybe in a multi-man match format. Maybe it is a fatal four-way where it is Gunther, Seth, Drew, and Punk all together, and once again you're trying to get Punk to get the title. And some people in the comments are going to say, hey dummy, I don't want CM Punk in my main event. I don't want him anywhere near anything, and I want him going home. That's totally fair. You can just enjoy whatever you want to enjoy. But somehow, some way, I do feel the most likely scenario is that CM Punk wins the Royal Rumble as kind of intended last year, where they had to call an audible because he got injured. One of the things Punk has even talked about since coming back to WWE is that WrestleMania main event. And so many times it feels like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is in there at that exact time and takes that away from CM Punk. But Punk has never main evented a WrestleMania. He's had incredible matches at Mania, the ladder matches for Money in the Bank, Undertaker one-on-one. He's had great moments, but never at the tippy top of WrestleMania. So I can see WWE, because of how popular Punk is, he sells some of the top merch in the company, and he doesn't even wrestle that often. And he's still a giant ratings and a giant draw. I think they want to position him main event night 1, night 2 reserved to Bloodline, Rock, Roman, all of that. I don't know what's going to happen there. I don't think you get a 2-night main event where it's all Bloodline related again, like 40. I think that's going to be reserved. Rock is going to be reserved for main event night 2. So those are some options when it comes to CM Punk if he's going after the world title and he's staying involved with Seth Rollins, Drew, and maybe even Gunther. But there is another option, and I thought of this as I was bathing. No, I'm kidding. I was thinking about how they could do something totally different with CM Punk. Maybe they want to leave Seth Rollins for later. Maybe they want to do that for WrestleMania 42. Punk has a long-term deal with WWE, he's not going anywhere, and you want to keep him healthy. There is another play in here, and they have a short, tiny window if they want to be able to pull this off in time. So if they reserve Seth Punk for, let's say, SummerSlam, because 2025 SummerSlam is now going to be a 2-night affair, just like Mania, they're going to want to make it a big deal. The other option, if the stars aligned, would be CM Punk versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, one time only at WrestleMania, and make that the main event of night 1 at Mania. Stone Cold did not show up for WrestleMania 40, which I was surprised by just because of how historical it was and with the main event. And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there was reports at the time that Undertaker was not supposed to be in that spot, that it was supposed to be Austin, but he didn't want to do it, or the creative didn't work out there. Because if I got Glass Shatter in the Mania 40 moment instead of the Undertaker, I would have lost it even more. I love the main event of WrestleMania 40. It felt so fun, and Undertaker was a great moment. But if I got Austin and the Glass Shatter and Rock's reaction to Austin coming out and them brawling, that would have been the tops for me. I think with Austin over the years, when he has teased with, you know, the return and he came back and he fought Kevin Owens, I think for him, a lot of it comes down to protecting his character and making sure the creative is right and that it aligns. And Austin has talked over the years that one opponent he would have loved to face was going to be CM Punk. The window is so small. This is kind of it, in my opinion. If Austin has any gas left in the tank, any interest at all in coming back to WWE, to do one more match like Kevin Owens, where it is a brawl and you're dishing out stunners and maybe the odd suplex and a Luthez and some kicks in the corner. And CM Punk, he's adapting his style. It's more of just brawling and going into that. He can't do a ton of the big moves and everything. So I think that you could easily give us Austin versus Punk at WrestleMania 41 as the main event. Because if you don't do it now, another year goes by, and I don't think that Austin is gonna be able to pull it off as time goes by. But could you imagine the star power at Mania 41 if you were able to get Austin and Punk one-on-one, and then you've got on Mania Night 2, you got Roman, Cody, and Rock. Two guys from the Attitude Era, two main events from WrestleManias in the Attitude Era, both main eventing WrestleMania once again. And since Austin got that win against Kevin Owens at WrestleMania, and it was just a really fun, cool moment as a fan of Steve Austin. If you did the match against Punk, and it's the main event, you could do Punk going over on Stone Cold. Because if the creative is there, and both guys are just respective faces, but they can tell some amazing stories and amazing promos in the lead up, you can get Punk being a little bit more heelish, and maybe Punk gets the win over Stone Cold. Or Austin just dishes out stunners and he takes down CM Punk and it's over. How would you book CM Punk all the way to WrestleMania? Now we mentioned Goldberg and Gunther, right? And that could happen at Mania, if not sooner. So click this video right here because we're talking about Goldberg's final retirement run. WWE, it's a thing. It's gonna happen. Have a great day, everybody. See ya.